George.
Yes.
So you'll guide maybe what point we start, right?
Yeah, actually, I think we can get started right away. So we are 3 minutes on. So hello, everyone, from wherever part you're joining from. My name is George Masila. I'll be assisting with the moderation of this webinar. So welcome and feel free to be part of this. So just before we get started, I would want to make it known to everyone that this webinar is also live on Kenya's YouTube channel, and a link has been dropped in the chat. So you can follow up it via YouTube, so that in case we end up getting to full capacity, your colleagues and friends can follow through. So on board we have Tony Omwansa, Sheena, and Florence Kimata, and of course Philip, who will be our panelists for today. So at some point they will introduce themselves, but up first will be Dr. Tony Omwansa. So Dr. Tony Omwansa, you're welcome to proceed.
Okay, thanks very much, George, and it's an honor to be here. I just hope that I need to turn my camera on. I realize it's off. Thanks very much. I'm just going to set up some slides, share some screen. There we go. And there we go. All right, so thanks very much, George, and also for everyone who's joining. Yeah, my name is Tony Omwansa, and currently I serve as the CEO of Kenya National Innovation Agency. And we're here to bring to you the concept of Kenya Innovation Week, which we'll try to elaborate a little bit, that it is basically a movement that we're trying to grow, starting somewhere and building up to, a national forum. And there are many, partners and friends who are coming on board as we begin to, build this movement, which we started some months back. The Kenya Innovation Week, the session that we have here is more like, trying to engage the public, trying to engage enthusiasts and stakeholders about what the potential there is if we work together in this direction. So the Kenya Innovation Week is something that we have given a theme, the innovativeness of Kenyans. And the main event for this year will happen between the 6th and the 10th of December. There are several pre-events that have kind of begun, and we're building that momentum as we go. And in the longer term, we're looking at this as an innovation forum that will be on an annual basis for several years to come, with very specific targets and goals that we work towards. So as an introduction, in that case, let's talk a little bit about Kenya National Innovation Agency. It may not be known to many. It's a young agency that was established by an act of parliament with a mandate to develop and manage the national innovation system. That's a fairly broad mandate. And frankly speaking, an agency on its own cannot achieve the entire elements of that particular mandate. It requires partners, it requires individuals, it requires institutions, and so on and so forth. And part of developing a National Innovation Week is an umbrella or a vehicle that we're using to get as many partners involved, as many individuals involved, and I hope you and I will get an opportunity to participate. The vision of the agency is to be a key enabler of socioeconomic development through innovation. If you think about the Vision 2030, the Big Four agenda, all these point to better socioeconomic well-being of society, of the people. And the contribution that the agency is trying to do is to get to that vision through innovation. So our mission basically is to try and develop and manage a dynamic national innovation system that will facilitate ideas to market. What that means is that the unit of measure for us as an agency is how many ideas did we get to market, and of what quality were these ideas, and what impact are they going to have. If we succeed in doing that, then we are able to feel comfortable that we're getting to our destination. Now, through that foundation, we came up with the concept of Kenya Innovation Week, which is more of a movement that embraces as many people as possible and becomes a platform that we all can get an opportunity to participate as we grow the national innovation system. So a Kenya Innovation Week as a movement is to where? The question would be, okay, so you are moving us in a certain direction, but where are we going? And we've come up with a term that we call Kenya 2.0. Kenya 2.0 is more of the destination, so to speak, but the destination is not something you arrive at. It is something you continuously work on. So we're trying to create a future, our future, and we're starting today. Now, see, innovation can strengthen our resilience to both local challenges as well as global challenges. And it will give us an opportunity to enhance our competitiveness in the global arena, and also improve the quality of life of our citizens, of our residents, and the people who actually visit the country. Now, in order to do that, to arrive there, what we must do specifically is to identify models and solutions that we can develop, that we can incubate, and we can accelerate so that they diffuse into society. And that way we improve the quality of lives of people. And so Kenya Innovation Week is now a platform that we're looking as a new and impactful movement towards that desired national goal, and the pathway there is innovation. And so when you hear us saying the innovativeness of Kenyans and everyone has a role to play towards the Kenya 2.0, you ask yourself, what can you develop, what can you incubate, and what can you accelerate that then gets to society and improves the quality of lives of people? So why did we set up on what we kind of like think we will achieve through the Kenya Innovation Week movement? The first one is around policy engagements, and this will cut across a number of areas. We're trying to promote, we may deliver 1, 2, 3, 20, we don't know the number, but really want to put attention towards the policy environment in a number of areas. We would like to promote practical skills that enable people to create meaningful and impactful innovations. We want to showcase, amplify, demonstrate, exhibit, and recognize innovation. So sometimes you may be having an innovation that you think needs to receive more attention. This will be more of a platform for you. We want to strengthen research and commercialization practices, because when we develop ideas, they may not necessarily get to market. If you conduct research, you may come up with a prototype, and we want to find a way to strengthen the commercialization process in the country. We also want to advance the diffusion and uptake of emerging technologies. We talk about fourth industrial revolution technologies, and the list there is quite long. How do you ensure that this really penetrates and becomes tools that people can use in society? And we also want to strengthen the national startup movement, because we realize that that is more the outcome of an innovation process. It's one of the major outcomes of an innovation process. And if we can strengthen that, then it means the solutions by startups penetrate more and more into society. Now, we've got 4 thematic areas that we are promoting during this Innovation Week movement. One is around skills, which I mentioned, And you may want to look at that as talent. And this can range from technical skills to soft skills to issues of competence-based curriculum, 21st century skills, all the way to innovation leadership that you would expect in a corporate or in a government institution. The second track we have is the fourth industrial revolution and the technological issue that go with it. And that really is about tools. So if you had a group of people who have the talent and you gave them the tools, then what do you want to do? You want to give them a pathway that they can utilize those tools and the talent towards something. And research at commercialization is more the pathway that you provide these people, and then they can work towards specific solutions that are addressing specific problems. And then the outcome will be more of the startup movement. So we're basically building a pathway to that particular outcome. So these are the four tracks: skills, technology, fourth industrial revolution, commercialization, as well as the startup movement. And then we want to focus on three sectors for a start. That not to mean that we cannot accommodate other sectors, absolutely we can, but we need to look a little bit focused now. So we've picked two tracks that are very well aligned to the Big Four agenda. That's healthcare and agriculture, as well as food security. And then we have also picked fintech and techfin. In this case, it gives us an opportunity to think more about solutions that also get to society and how they impact people. So in a nutshell, we've aligned ourselves to technology. We've aligned ourselves to a Big Four agenda within the context of healthcare and agriculture and food security. So how do we put together the tracks and then the sectors? This diagram tries to illustrate. When you look at healthcare, you do need skills. You do need the tools. You do need the path, and you do need the outcome. So if we have as many startups as possible that are addressing very specific challenges in healthcare, then we are working towards our Kenya 2.0 a lot more aggressively. If we have skills that are targeting to address agricultural challenges, or we have commercialization that is looking into fintech and so forth, then we are working our way towards the Kenya 2.0. And at the base of that is the Kenya Innovation Week. So what would you expect at the Kenya Innovation Week? Ahead of time, you would expect some exhibition. So maybe you will have some solution in healthcare or agriculture or fintech or techfin, and you'd like to participate. Exhibition will be one way you can. Panel discussions, and we'll try to get as high-end speakers, influential people in private sector, in government, in development partnerships, and so forth, in academia as well. There will be great opportunities for networking, starting way early now. Already we've begun networking and we're building a movement around this. There will be boot camps and hackathons that will be organized by as many partners as we are embracing as we go. There will be a lot of speakers, keynote speakers, both local and international. The event will be hybrid, so there will be physical, there will be virtual. And then we also have a lot of opportunity for pitches of startups that we're trying to pick across the entire country. So what that leads us to is that we have a series of pre-events that have already started. We've done a number with a number of partners, and we'll continue to build that movement all the way to December. And then we'll have an official opening on the 6th of December. And then we have parallel tracks that will happen the next 1-2 days before we close. If the dates might change, maybe the closure could end up being on the 8th, but that is a detail that we'll work with time. But this gives a snapshot of what we expect to see during that particular week. And then there will be a number of side events that will happen in different locations, organized by different stakeholders. So you may have a particular side event that you think will be valuable. You can either organize it or you can propose that we would like to have that organized. Now, it is important to appreciate that we're seeing this as a national event. So, and we're positioning it as an event that help us to think more and more into the future. Because we do have national events where we think about what has happened and we want to remember some of the things that happened in the past. But this is going to help us to think more and more into the future and how we build a movement that transforms society. So because it is a Kenyan activity, it is not just a Kenya activity, nor is it a Nairobi activity. What we are looking to do is to work with as many counties as possible, as many hubs as possible, as many universities as possible, as many research centers as possible, private sector, and so on and so forth. And then we'll have the main event that will be held in Nairobi at the dates that I just mentioned. Now, we've already started building a number of partners who are interested in playing different kinds of roles. Some of them want to provide speakers, some of them want to organize side events, others are looking to do pre-events, others are looking to be in the panel sessions. So you might be interested, either as an organization or as an individual, to participate, and therefore, please reach to us, because we are now beginning to shape the program of what is going to happen in the main event. And this might be an opportunity to participate. Other institutions are giving financial support, others are giving in-kind contribution, and all this is welcome. So I'm concluding my remarks of introducing the Kenya Innovation Week to you by saying you can check the website, kenyainnovationweek.com. And there is a concept note. That link is rather long, but if you went to the website, Kenya Innovation Week, and you can look at the section that has resources, you'll actually find the concept note, which is several pages that try to explain what we're trying to do. So at this point, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to invite my colleagues who are also making presentations about the specific tracks. So in other words, I'm going back to this section, which talks about the thematic areas. And I'm Sheena, who is going to say a little bit about what she's championing along that track, because each of these 4 tracks is led by a champion. So Sheena is going to explain a little bit about the thought process and what we can expect along the track of skills for innovation talent. Welcome, Sheena.
Hi, Sheena, your mic is on mute.
Oh, sorry about that. You'd think by now we'd get used to these online meetings. But anyway, I just want to say thank you, Tony, for the great introduction and context setting. And really, really excited to be here. Definitely do see myself as, I think skills are really, really important for us. So very happy to be championing this track. I'll just give a brief introduction of who I am, and then I'll sort of talk a bit more about my ideas for the track and just call for action to different partners. And in advance, apologies, I actually work for the FCDO, which is the UK government here in Kenya, and our laptops have really strict requirements. So Zoom is one that's unfortunately not allowed. So apologies if I sort of go on and off a little bit, but let's hope it all works. But if not, somebody can just do like a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and I'll know where we're at. So yes, I'll start by introducing myself. My name's Sheena, and I'm the country director for the UK Kenya Tech Hub. The UK Kenya Tech Hub is a UK body, like a UK government entity, but we're based here in Kenya, in Nairobi, with the British High Commission. And we have 3 aims. The first aim is, how do we help the Kenyan tech ecosystem? Secondly, how do we build skills? And thirdly, how do we build linkages? Now, a lot of the times, as soon as I say the word tech hub, people just switch off. Oh, this isn't about me. I'm not a techie. So to clarify, you're all part of the tech ecosystem, because my definition of tech is very, very broad. The first bucket is I divide tech into 3 buckets in Kenya. The first bucket is what I like to call the cool tech, the sexy tech. And that's all your AI, blockchain, big data, and all the stuff, the 4th industrial revolution that Philip, another champion, is going to talk about shortly. And that's very, very important. And it's having a lot of impact, as we can see with COVID. But I think it's a very small part of entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship in Kenya. It's about 1 to 3%. So what's the next bucket? The next bucket is where tech can be an enabler. Where can tech be used to get, whether it's goods, services, to the people that need it the most? And Tony identified some of those key areas. We're talking about agriculture, health, fintech. And the point is, how do we use technology? And it doesn't just have to be a technology innovation. It can also be a business model innovation to get those services to the people that need it the most. So that's the second bucket. Thirdly is a third bucket, which I think is one of the most important buckets, although people might say it's probably the most boring bucket. And that's what I like to call operational tech. Operational tech is where you use technology to help SMEs and MSMEs scale and grow. So that could be anything. It could be literally, we hosted a masterclass where we got female MSMEs, and one of them was literally a mama selling secondhand baby clothes. We got her on Twitter. She integrated with the Boda driver, with mobile money. For me, that's tech enablement. That's also the future of Kenya. So skills cuts across all of those 3 things, which is why I kind of wanted to set that context of the tech hub. Now I'll move very quickly on to sort of Kenya Innovation Week and the skills for innovation and why this is really important to me. So when we talk about skills for innovation, I think let's be very clear. This is a really broad subject. It covers everything from ECD, from when you were like a baby, all the way to past adults when you're constantly learning. This method of continuous learning all falls within skills for development, all falls within skills for innovation. So I think what's exciting about this track is if you're interested in any of those areas, all the way from ECD, schools, secondary schools, TVETs, universities, post-graduations, apprentices, all of this kind of falls within this track. And I'm really excited to hear ideas and thoughts about what we can do together. Secondly, I think what's really, really interesting about the shift in this space is, we've seen a lot of innovation, we've seen a lot of technology changes, but not really in the education system. I think when the whole concept of education and going to school and learning hasn't really changed over the years. We've seen a few bits and bobs, but I think the sector is in a major need for overhaul and thinking. And what's exciting about Kenya Innovation Week is we can do this and think about how to do it. So one of the things that I believe really strongly on is we really need to move from what we learn to how we learn. Like, it still annoys me that I have facts in my head, like the Battle of Hastings was in 1066. Why do I need to know that? That's just something that I crammed when I was in school, and they're just occupying brain space. Kids nowadays and people nowadays don't need to learn facts. We have Google, we have we have the internet. So what's exciting about that is we no longer need to learn what we learn. We need to sort of learn how we learn and how do we change learning? How do we get things like problem solving, creating thinking, and the skills that are actually going to help us in the future? And that's why I'm really excited that one part of the track is going to be around the competency-based curriculum, which the Ministry of Education has launched. And the thing about the competency-based education is something that I truly believe in, because we do need to start thinking about problem solving, critical thinking. Those are the skills of the future that we need. So there's going to be a whole session around that in partnership with the government. And I think this is another exciting thing about this forum. We're going to partner with government. We're going to partner with private sector. We're going to partner with other donors. We're going to partner with innovators and really, really see how we can transform this space. So just to give you what I was going to do for the remainder of my time was just kind of give you an overview of some of the things that I'm thinking. Having said that, I don't believe, yes, I'm a champion, but I'm no expert. I think the experts is you guys, everybody in the ecosystem. And what I really want is this session to be crowdsourced from ideas from all of you to think about what can we do to move the needle in this space. So some of the ideas that I had was around like, what are the different types of skills? So one of the things that we successfully did with the UK Kenya Tech Hub is we had a webinar on something called the no code movement. So basically no code is how you can build a web app or a mobile app in a couple of hours, maybe 5 hours, 3 hours, without any knowledge of any technical knowledge, without any coding background. Like, trust me, I'm a failed entrepreneur. I started, so I'm a lawyer by background, and then I moved back to Kenya 7 years ago, started my own startup, failed because I suck at coding. Coding is not for me. But something like no code transformed, it can really be transformative. So if you're an MSME, SME, you want to sell something online, you don't have, you just want to test your build an MVP, no code is the way forward. So those are the kind of concepts that I think can be really, really exciting and something that we are very keen to do as part of Kenya Innovation Week. Another thing that we did is another program we ran, which is a digital apprenticeship program. And again, Philip Teagle on this panel is a partner that we ran this program with. And what we did there is we took 40 young people and we matched them to 40 businesses to solve a specific business problem that the business has identified. Could be a website, it could be a chatbot, a digital marketing campaign. We had a bunch of mentors, these are people from Safaricom, Liquid Telecom, just to make sure that the junior people who may have never worked in an office before get those soft skills. Where Thunderbird provides some awesome training on soft skills like leadership, communication, again, the competency stuff that I was talking about. And you know what? The result has been amazing. Almost 50% of those people have secured jobs. So there's a real need for innovation, because although I'm not saying skills are just for creating jobs, it's very important that we have jobs, we have businesses, and we have young people and provide people with the means of earning their income. So that's another example of something that I would love to showcase and think about different methods of how can we use the Skills for Innovation track to get more young people in jobs, and obviously not just young people, more people in jobs, and kind of get more entrepreneurship. So those are a couple of the examples of things that we have done. I think another thing that I would love to do is have sort of like a TED Talk. So we have some amazing people doing amazing things in this space. And I can already see from the chats, people are already talking about stuff that they're doing. So for example, we've got a new online school that's been launched, Kidato, I'd love to hear about that. We've got the model of ALN and they're doing some good stuff. I think Gearbox is doing something around training the Geokali sector. So I think there's some real champions within Kenya and actually globally who've got some awesome examples. And they're the real champions and the thought leaders of how things can change in the space. So I'd love to have, as one of the sessions, something like TED Talks of some maybe 5 or 10 kind of old people who are really, really transforming their space and can kind of share lessons with us. Another part that's extremely important, I think, is let's think about best practices. Let's bring in international examples. What's worked in the UK, maybe South Africa, India, what's worked, and let's get different people together and share ideas of what can work for Kenya, and let Kenya share what can work for the rest of the world. Because I think having more brains, more diverse experience can make things a lot better. So again, if you're international, love to hear from you, and let's think through what can we do to really to kind of move the needle in this space. Now, two other things I'm going to quickly touch upon. One is, of course, regulation, policy, and the regulatory environment. This is going to be extremely important because you need a good enabling environment. So again, let's think about it. What is a good enabling environment for this sector? And there's lots of different things that are happening, but what more can be done? And this is a time where we get the people in government, we get the key stakeholders in the space together and really think about what are the three things that we can do. And some things can be short term, some things can be medium term, some things can be long term. But again, those are the kind of ideas that we're hoping to do in this through like regulatory roundtables, stakeholder mapping, so everybody knows who they are. And this brings me back to my next point. I believe that there are amazing innovators here in Kenya doing some awesome things. The problem is sometimes the innovations don't get to the place that they need to get to. So whether it's at the county level, whether it's with the teachers, whether it's with the schools, whether it's, and what we kind of need to do is figure out how do we get those innovations and get them piloted and tested them to the people that need them the most. So though looking for investors and stuff is extremely important, I think we also need to figure out like, how do we get these innovations and break the silos? How do we break the silos within the ecosystem? And one of the ways that I'm really keen to do is, as Tony mentioned earlier, is let's have like an innovation showcase. And one thing part of the Skills for Innovation track is going to be an innovation showcase, but all these people working on real, innovations or real solutions within the education system, we're going to try and link them to the key players within the system. So I think those are a couple of ideas. And finally, one of my keynotes and one of my things that I'm, really keen on doing is going to be around showing, and this is the theme, as Tony mentioned, the innovativeness of Kenyans. I believe Kenyans have been innovative throughout. So most recently, I was reading about this, reading about some tribes in Kenya who had mapped the solar system hundreds of years ago before any Europeans had done it. So what I'm saying is, there's a lot of things there. There's another tribe, I think, who was doing kind of surgery using all these tools that to this day are probably more accurate than all our modern medicine. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with modern or tech. I mean, I'm the director of the Tech Hub. I love tech. I love new things. What I'm also saying is that as Kenyans, we have the knowledge. We've had it from a long time ago. And I think it's about time to use this Kenyan Innovation Week to really take pride of Kenyan innovation from the past, present, and also from the future. And those are some, and I think those are just a couple of the ideas. I think Tony mentioned that we are looking for partners, we're looking for call for actions, we're looking for creative ways to do things. And also Kenya Innovation Week is also about everybody. It's about you guys, it's about people here, it's about people within this ecosystem. So we're going to soon be launching sort of a submit your session. And I think George probably put a link on this, but we'll be submitting, submit your session, submit your ideas, and submit your ideas for a session or thoughts. And of course, we can't do everything, but we're going to really try and do what we can. And like I said, we've got pre-events and events. Skills for Innovation, I think, is a really exciting track, but so are the others. So I'll stop now and let maybe the others come in, or if you've got any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or drop me a message. I hope that was clear, and yeah, looking forward to this awesome event.
Thanks very much, Sheena. I think that already sets the pace for one track, and you can see how much thought is going into the track itself. It almost sounds like we're going to have a summit around talent and skills, ranging from the lowest level to the highest level, of sophistication, and then cutting across different, areas, whether it's technology, whether it is a mindset, whether it is approach. Because the more we create problem-based innovations, the more we create user-centered innovations, the higher the likelihood we have for success. All right, now we're going to go to the second panelist. Now, for those who are already, on call, and I can see many people, you can post your questions on the chat, and towards the end, we'll try to wrap some of these questions and try to respond to as many. I already can see a number of them on the presentation. All right. So we're going to go to the second presenter, Philip. I believe you're in the room. After we've talked about the skills and talent, now we're going to tools, the enabling environment. Over to you, Philip.
Thanks so much, Tony, and as usual, Sheena, for always being inspiring. Sheena and I are co-conspirators on a lot of things, as you see, and as much as she's working on skills, I think skills are also part of the fourth industrial revolution. So quickly, I just wanted to bring that into the fore. As Tony and Sheena have mentioned, this is an all-in effort. We're already seeing, as you see there below, the partners are piling up. So if you're in the room and you think this is something that you work on or you want to work on, please feel free to join us. We are really looking at moonshot around this, and our audacity is that the Kenya Innovation Week and Kenya are leading in the fourth industrial revolution. And as you see, the partners there are really global partners. So please know this is going to be a roller coaster for the next couple of years. My name is Philip, as Tony has mentioned. I'm Senior Director for Africa for Arizona State University, Canterbury School of Global Management. I'm part of the Councils of the World Economic Forum, but I'm also the Digital Partnership Advisor for UNDP initiative on Africa leading the fourth industrial revolution. So we have already those three institutions behind this track, and feel free to join us if you think this is your area. The fourth industrial revolution, just in a nutshell, as we know, there have been four. First one was driven by steam. Second one was really about electricity and mass production. The third one was automation. Unfortunately, some of us are still in the third industrial revolution. But then the piece and the actual fact around this is that Africans and even Kenyans were driving this, but from the wrong side. As you know, a lot of these things were driven either through slave trade or through our minerals or through our brain drain. And so we want to really bring this talent home. And so the fourth industrial revolution, for those of you who don't know, really it's a fusion of the biological spheres and the cyber physical systems. In simple nutshell, is everything is interconnected. Your phone is your camera, is your video, is your mic, is everything, right? So everything now is really very much integrated. So how do we ensure that we can leverage on these capabilities towards development outcomes? The basic tenet, of course, of the fourth industrial revolution is everything is fast. Everything is happening at quite a rapid pace of change. If we did not believe this before COVID-19, now we know. We wouldn't have done this webinar, I'm very sure about it, online 2 years ago. But because now we are seeing everything is possible, we can connect online, we can engage online, we can have interesting conversations, but also we can co-create online. Then, I mean, I'm doing this from a roadside, basically. Sheena was doing this call from her house. And we're seeing then therefore the fourth industrial revolution is changing how we live, learn, work, but also communicate. In most cases, it's reshaping everything, including government. So as Sheena has mentioned, it's reshaping education, and how education is delivered healthcare, and how healthcare is delivered. For COVID-19, we are seeing contact tracing applications, or even just how the government is doing this is under differentiated lockdowns is basically a lot because of the fourth industrial revolution and the kind of tools and analytics we have to be able to be very precise, but also be able to predict in a way that we can begin to sort of mitigate. Technologies that drive this revolution, as Sheena has mentioned, artificial intelligence in our case is really the big game changer, right? In terms of really how everything has become intelligent. Anybody with a phone, when you go to Google, the minute you type a word, you see some autofill emerging. That's AI. It's already learning, or it's already using kind of collective intelligence to think through. If Philip is searching for Kenya Innovation Week, then it's already looking at who else has been searching. And in most cases, these are the searches that you want to come up very quickly. Blockchain, in terms of simply just being able to secure transactions. I know a lot of you have heard of Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies in terms of what is coming in the new era of fintech. That's going to be an interesting piece that this kind of Kenya Innovation Week is going to look at. This whole issue of big data, in terms of big data, is not a question of the size of data, but it's a question of the frequency of how we are simply consuming data, or data is being produced per second in exponential ways that were not being done before. And finally, I think is the Internet of Things. And this really, I really want to zero in on Konza, because Konza really wants to be the center or known for IoT or Internet of Things, in terms of, in this very interconnected world, how do we ensure that that connectivity, computing, storage, and everything delivers or drives intelligent design, but also co-creation of the future. Of course, as Tony and Sheena have mentioned, technology of the fourth industrial revolution cannot be in abstraction. We really have to ground it on our reality. And as we know, the government priority has really been about healthcare, has been really about manufacturing, has really been about affordable housing. But I think for the case of this innovation week, we've said, listen, we focus on health systems innovation, food systems and agriculture value chains, and finally fintech, the money. How are we driving this? And so in our how we are looking at this, we're actually looking at this in these 4 buckets in terms of this track. First track, of course, is the grand challenge. And the grand challenge for us really is, how do we solve what I'm increasingly calling wicked problems? And the wicked problems is, how does the fourth industrial revolution create jobs? But also, as the fourth industrial revolution is creating jobs, how is it also creating change? Because it's just not about jobs. The second piece, we want to look at this bucket around accelerations. And so while digital technologies are enabling advancements, they're also creating digital divides. And so this is where now it will be interesting to see how this track is integrating with other tracks. So how are these accelerations affecting how education is delivered, how health is delivered, and how do we not leave anybody behind? So that even as we accelerate, we are leaving no one behind. The third piece is the foundations. As much as we are running, we must build this on solid foundations. The solid foundations are, you cannot have artificial intelligence without data, working data systems, privacy, security, open data being open for innovators to use that to build their innovations, being able to make sure data is interoperable so that private sector, academia, and government and innovators are working together from a single source of truth. The second piece, of course, is infrastructure. We can have as we can want to be in the fourth industrial revolution, but if our internet is not, if broadband is not accessible, cheap, affordable, not necessarily cheap, but affordable, if it's not resilient, if we don't have just shutdowns and cuts, then there's no way we'll power this revolution. The other piece, of course, Sheena has exhausted the skills bit. We need to be able to do scaling different, like Sheena mentioned, especially in this age of acceleration. So how do you skill, and upskill in a way that you are not left behind? Of course, energy. And we need really some audacious kind of showcases around energy. And we've seen a lot of innovators who are doing this. Around kind of smart energy grids, how they're creating things that are more resilient around energy. We've seen somebody who's built a shoe that is charging, can charge a phone. I mean, these things are out here, and all of you have it out there. The final piece of this is governance. So we're hearing data protection legislations, we are hearing startup acts. There are a lot of these legislations, regulations that are coming up, but they must be done in a way that is agile, that it doesn't stifle innovation, but encourages innovation, but also is co-created with innovators. And so for us, this piece of agile governance will begin to tease out those pieces of how do you govern differently technology, but also how do you govern with technology differently. Then this other piece of solving together. So as Tony says and Sheena says, you know us now, we are not just think tanks, we're the do tanks, we want to do. So in our track, we are thinking, let's get the sort of knowledge and universities to do abstracts, because we are thin on knowledge or literature around the fourth industrial revolution, especially in continents like Africa. We want to have these workshops that are co-creation workshops that bring these tracks together. We want to have to keep this high on the political agenda. So we'll have some quite high level roundtables. We want some challenge labs. We thrive on challenges. And so how do we leverage on the fourth industrial revolution to sort of begin to put to attack real problems? 6th one really is policy labs, policies that are co-created. And I think for me, finally, there are some pieces that are already moving. And so if people are interested in this, and if you have other ideas that we can do, then we'll be super excited. On the policy labs, we're already working with the Agriculture Transformation Office here in Kenya to think through how to leverage on the fourth industrial revolution to be able to deal with multiple risks. So last year we had, it was almost the 10 plagues. We had COVID-19, we had locusts, we had supply chain disruptions, we had a drought, but also we had a flood. And so you can imagine with these new challenges to food systems, how can you predict so that you can prepare? But also, how do you ensure that the smallholder farmers are part of that ecosystem? The second piece, of course, is how do you link creativity? And we know a lot of artists are in the fourth industrial revolution without knowing, and then with technology. And because a lot of our young people are really in this space. And we're already co-creating this with a couple of African-American celebrities in the US as part of our ecosystem to think through how to leverage on those capabilities, but also because they think Africa is home. The third piece, of course, is we are trying to be very practical around working with the Mastercard Foundation and Africa CDC around leveraging on FOIR and vaccine rollout, because we are, as much as doing this event, are in the middle of a pandemic. So we don't want to forget that. Then in the showcase piece, because also this is a big climate year, we think we have a partner who has a bioingester that ingests, transforms food waste, which is about 30%, into shoes. So this will be interesting, and we want to make this as a centerpiece of this track, so that we can see how you can connect things like agro waste into real practical things that society or the economy needs. In terms of resiliency, because as Tony and Sheena says, this is not a talk shop. The idea is that we want to have one of the World Economic Forum centers for the fourth industrial revolution launched here in Kenya. So that will be one of the big pieces that this track will do in December. And finally, with the Kenya Innovation Week and of course Kenya, we as Thunderbird School of Global Management and Swahili Pot, which is a local partner for this, will offer this bootcamp during the Kenya Innovation Week for free. So we are offering scholarship, 990 scholarship basically, as long as you register for Kenya Innovation Week. This will be your channel to access this entrepreneurship bootcamp. So everything that Sheena has mentioned on how to be an entrepreneur in the fourth industrial revolution, how to think about how to have a global mindset, how to source investments, how to collaborate, how to understand global value chains, but also how to understand disruptions. Because at this time, as much as you're doing a local enterprise, you also need to understand you're operating within a global space and can be disrupted if you're not aware of that. And with that, I'd like to end my presentation and thank you so much for listening.
What a presentation. Philip almost sounds like he could have been a media presenter somewhere. But that's a very good balance, with the presentation that demonstrates the futuristic nature. I mean, the first one around skills, we're asking ourselves where we're going into the future. Fourth industrial revolution, and as we begin to talk more about fifth industrial revolution, that sets the agenda, and you don't want to miss. You don't want to be a partner. You don't want to miss making a contribution, or at least participating in some of the activities that are being considered. Now, we started with skills, and then we moved to the tools, talent, then tools. Now there is an element of commercialization. And I'm going to share a very short presentation so that I also don't look like I spoke too much before we go to the hot topic of startups. So the third element there is the pathway towards some of the innovations and startups that we're imagining. This is the Commercialization Summit. So I'm coordinating the activities of the Commercialization Summit, and it starts with a major issue we have, where a lot of research gets funded in our institutions. It could be in TVETs, it could be in universities, it could be in research centers, it could be within even private sector or even government. A lot of research gets done. But not all that research finds its way into creating solutions of public good. Not all that research finds its way into making enterprises, or making startups, or making joint ventures, or spin-offs, or licensed solutions, and so forth. And we realize that at the foundation of innovative countries is how well intellectual property gets converted to economic value, or socio-economic value for that matter. And this is why we want to do the first Commercialization Summit as part of the Kenya Innovation Week. And this is where we want to look at what are some of the policy issues What are some of the practices? What are some of the enabling environment that we need? And how do we ensure that we all internalize and appreciate the value of intellectual property creation, protection, and exploitation? So as part of that, we're looking at the theme of towards stronger commercialization practices in Kenya, how we can grow those practices to become a little better, whether it's at the institutional level or at individual level. A few times I've asked myself, why don't we have common courses in universities on intellectual property? We have common courses on communication, we have common courses on HIV/AIDS and among others, or economics for that matter. I do think it's about time to start diffusing more skills on intellectual property exploitation, on design thinking, on user-centered design, so that we build the mindset that begins to see that research and ideas can be systematically converted into enterprises or startups or whatever. So these are some of the highlights of the summit. We're working on some policy framework right now that we wish to announce during the Innovation Week that provides incentives as well as obligations at national level, at institutional level, and at individual level. Then we are also looking to expose business case and business models for commercialization so that our institutions and our organizations prioritize and mainstream commercialization. From the word go, when you get into an institution as a new staff, you need to appreciate the intellectual property policies, which should be there and well mainstreamed, and you should get an appropriate support system that motivates and energizes you and inspires you. That's a classic example. If you're a student in a university, you need an environment that then assures you that somehow whatever ideas you're trying to develop can find their way into the market while you're still a student. And these ideas don't just have to be meaningful in your local community, but they can be meaningful in the global landscape. We want to see a scenario where, you know, faculty and researchers in research centers and TVETs find inspiration in going beyond publication and actually working towards intellectual property protection as well as the exploitation of the same. We want to see a scenario where institutions like research centers and universities and TVETs, as well as high schools, innovation hubs, incubation centers, find an alternative revenue generation model out of the commercialization process. So if we strengthen the national commercialization framework, then you're creating opportunities for the institution, for the researcher, for the individual and student. And also what is more interesting is that some of the funding that goes into research actually comes from taxes. So we also want to create a scenario where we strengthen the return on investment for the funding that goes into research so that the taxpayer actually gets to see products, services, and jobs created and a society transformed, which is a true measure on return on investment. We are also working on a digital marketplace for products. So for example, if you have an innovative idea that you've developed, maybe you have protected it and you want to get it to the market and you don't know how to, sometimes it can be difficult, and that's understandable. And what we're trying to develop is a digital marketplace where you can actually upload your details, the nature of intellectual property protection you have done, the kind of partnerships you're looking for, and so on and so forth. And other people who are on the other end, they are able to log in and create connections with you and help amplify your product. And we see this as a national product and a national pride. We're also going to have a lot of case studies of what it means to successfully commercialize innovations. And ultimately, we also have some awards that we want to celebrate of people, individuals, institutions that are aggressively commercializing their ideas, riding on the skills that we spoke about, the tools that we spoke about, and moving towards enterprises. So you will expect panel discussions, keynote speeches, networking opportunities, exhibitions, some hackathons. We are actually planning a breakfast meeting for policymakers. We're planning a breakfast meeting for institutional leaders so that we articulate better the business proposition. And we are also looking to do a bootcamp and a masterclass for innovators who wish to appreciate the commercialization processes. So be on the lookout, because all these things will be announced in a little while. Who do we expect to see there? Research centers, TVETs, universities, startups, innovators. So everyone really has some position there beyond the institution leaders, but as well as individuals. So with that, I'm closing to say, commercialization is a pathway to where we go. So you can see the connection between the three elements. And with that, I'm closing. Be on the lookout on the website in how you can participate as an exhibitor or as a panelist. Reach out to us. If you want to partner with us in strengthening the commercialization framework, please get in touch. We already have a number of partners behind this, including agencies like KIPI, who is into intellectual property protection, Kenya Copyright Board, Kenya Anti-Counterfeit Authority, National Commission for Science and Technology, National Research Fund. We're engaging with the Kenya Bureau of Standards as government agencies. We'll also move into institutions like KEMRI, ILRI, KIRDI, that are all actively involved and providing certain elements and support towards the commercialization process, as well as institutions like universities who will be demonstrating some of the innovations they have developed, and as well as private sector that is interested in picking up some of the solutions that have been created with the aim of supporting the scaling of the same. So I'm going to stop here now and hand over to the last presenter, who is Florence Kimata, who has been thinking about startups. Now, it is also important to mention that these individuals are champions of tracks, but they work with a team. So each of them has built some team around them. And if you are interested in participating in one way or another, we'll direct you to the team leader and we'll figure out how best to participate. So I'll stop right there and hand over to Florence.
Thank you very much, Tony. Good morning, everybody. Happy to be here and happy to be part of this process that is really, taking a role in championing innovation in Kenya. And I will take you through what the track is all about. It might sound repetitive, but this is very intentional. As Tony mentioned, this is really the outcome of the movement. This is a movement, and focusing on the beneficiary who is a startup. We have named it Startup Kenya, so that we see what is the outcome beyond the Kenya Innovation Week, and what do we continue leveraging on. So I'll share with you a presentation. So this presentation really focuses on, a lot of the areas that we want to cover. And again, like I said, this sounds repetitive, but maybe before I start, I can do a brief introduction. My name, like Tony said, is Florence Kimata, currently working as a business reforms advisor with a department called the Business Reforms and Transformation Department within the Ministry of EAC. Was established in 2019, and this is really the department that drives an enabling environment across government, looking at areas that need to be reformed in order to offer service delivery to businesses. And I'm really privileged to be working in that space on the enabling environment, because previously I was working on the enterprise development side, working on policies that promote entrepreneurship as the SME advisor in the Ministry of Industry. So being given a role to, to also activate the flip side, which is enabling environment, and which we will discuss as we go on with my presentation, is really a good opportunity for us to be able to support startups within public sector. So getting on to my presentation, and the first thing that we want to focus on, and on the Kenya Innovation Week and continuing, is showcasing innovation. So we don't want to make this as, a one-off showcase where we put the top 100 startup and that becomes it. I think we have to have, what's the value that we are creating for the startups. We are showcasing them and, selecting the top 100 to give them that national and international visibility to leverage on as they grow, as they establish themselves and they grow. And this, of course, recognizing their effort and their contribution to what, we have, listed as our areas of focus and other sectors which are key to our socioeconomic development. This is important, and this, as we say a lot of times, enterprises are the bedrock of our economy. I think we need to make this happen, and by starting to, show the faces behind, this innovation. Secondly, focusing on startup handholding. And again, when I mention these areas, you will note the linkages with the other tracks which my colleagues have presented on the skills for innovation, the fourth industrial revolution, as well as commercialization on innovation. We want to be able to create some linkages to investors. And here we are inviting partners, and we'll be working with partners who are currently championing, linkages to local investors as well as global investors. And this will be done in the form of deal rooms. So we will have curated sessions where startups who are interested in raising funds will have special sessions where they can log into and be able to talk to, to investors. They will be both physical as well as virtual, appreciating that they are global investors who will be who would like to, to participate in this economy, but would not be able to come physically. So we will make it possible for all and to create those linkages. Again, linkages with mentors, with incubators, markets, and partners. And then again, this is really to also say the people who are championing these areas in terms of mentorship, this is the platform for you to come and really put out the work that you're doing with regard to mentorship, but then again, be part of a longer term movement where we're saying that this needs to be continuous. It's not just a showcase for the event, but eventually we will want this to be a continued and sustained approach. It's also working with incubators. How are we, facilitating the work of incubators? How are we also supporting startups that are coming out of these incubation hubs? And, so we have a whole network of the Association of Startup and SME Enablers, as well as the countrywide hubs who would be key partners in showcasing that and being able to take on, an area of expertise. If for them, they are working on, for example, preparing startups for, investment and so on. This is an area that they can come on board and run sessions, whether they're master classes or whether they're sessions just really to make the connections. The next area I'll talk about is the National Innovation Awards. Tony has briefly mentioned about it in terms of recognizing who are these institutions, people, agencies, intermediaries, private sector players that are playing a big role in championing innovation. And this is something that, Kenya has in its mandate to facilitate, awards for innovation. So that will be also an area that we look at in terms of continuity and running it and being able to recognize, but also, create a lot of traction in terms of, championing innovation within our institutions and also for startups. The other area we'll be looking at is how do we mobilize funding initiatives? Access to finance is, it's beginning to sound like a perennial problem, access to finance, but really here we will be drilling down on what is the real problem. What is the real problem in people knowing what finance is available to them? Do we have a platform where you can log in and see what is the appropriate form of funding at this stage of my business? Who is in this space? As an investor, do I know what I need to do to invest in a startup? So investor education will be very key. Then unlocking early stage funding, I think, will be, an area that we'll be looking at. We have champions who are championing the funding, particularly early stage funding, angel investment. So how do we unlock that, and how do we create the incentives to unlock that funding, locally? That will be a key area. And what are the funds that will be available to support innovation in this country? How do we partner, as institutions and create a structure that, avails a fund that supports innovation? So that will be also a track that will be very key to supporting startups in the long run. Going down to enhancing and interoperability. Again, as this has been mentioned, this is the platform where we all come together as an ecosystem to be able not to duplicate what we are doing, but really to complement what we are doing and set the stage for a strong ecosystem that is leveraging on every resource that we have and using it optimally to support startups. So working on ecosystem mapping, and I know there are very many maps that have been going on, mapping initiatives that have been going on. we call on partners who are working on this to, to speak to us so that we can have a collaborative effort. And this ecosystem mapping becomes not a one-off static activity where we create a map and that's it. As we know, the map keeps changing, the profiles of the players keep changing. When we profile startups, it keeps changing as they grow. So this needs to be really a live sort of platform that would be able to also allow the linkages that we want. And then again, coming together on this collaborative platform, like we said, is really key, and be able to exchange knowledge with our peers, with different players within the ecosystem. I think just leveraging on that, even if you have like a knowledge piece to share, I think this is a good platform for you to be able to, to come on board and showcase within the Innovation Week. On the Kenya Innovation Week County Edition and driving innovation at the subnational level, again, as Tony mentioned, this is a nationwide event, and what we're looking to do is to be able to support the startups in curating, the innovation showcase, and be able to create those linkages with the national event. So there will be some pre-events or, an innovation week where they run a series of events, and we'll be able to, support them in terms of, the areas that we're looking at. We'll be looking at the common pillars, just like has been described, so that we can all contribute to an output that is impactful, and we can be able to track progress year on year. So bringing in the counties, working closely with them and supporting the innovation showcase will also be, a key enabler to the success of what we hope this movement to be going forward. On mindset shift and skills development, this has been very well covered under the Skills for Innovation by Sheena. And this is, the area where we bring together partnerships between academia, industry, and government. And she articulated well on how this will be done in terms of making sure that the skills that we are focusing on are skills that we need, are skills for the future, and are skills that, that are informed by a need, so that academia can be able to commercialize their research in a way that is useful to industry, and government is there to support with the enabling environment around, how that is done. The last area is sustainable startup support program, in terms of online tools and resources. So like I mentioned, I think one of the key outputs would be a platform that, startups can log in to make the connections, be able to access some resources. And we have partners who are coming on board to share some of their resources. Sheena mentioned the no code movement, which is also a resource that we'll be looking at. We also have, other partners who have come and said, I have cloud space, I have this kind of tools that are ready for use for startups. I think we need to differentiate what is, value for a startup, putting aside resources for, as they begin, and what is available for free and what we can really support them with, so that they are really, really focusing on, sharing their resources or using their resources on areas where they cannot access, support, and then we can also free the time of some of the hubs to focus on the more critical areas of startup support. The other key area is policy issues, and this has been talked about by all the tracks. We do hope that we'll be able to, I'm trying to move to the next slide. Okay, there we are. So policy discussions. The first one is, of course, response to COVID-19. I think Philip did mention about the, how we cannot, talk about innovation in the country without, talking about the effect of the pandemic and what startups have been doing to overcome these challenges and what innovations are in place, to overcome a similar situation going forward. So I think, looking at, areas that are sharing innovative practices and, with a view to look at how to mitigate the effects of COVID will be key as an output. On the other policy discussion, we have investor incentives. So how do we unlock angel investing and other form of early stage investments? So what are the kind of incentives that would be required? Can we have a discussion about that, in terms of, how we unlock risk capital? Whether from corporates, whether from pension funds, so that we can then come up with an output where we have more available forms of funding for early stage investors, other than relying on venture capital funds, and we know how restrictive they can be when we're looking at risk capital. Then on enabling environment and regulatory framework, I think we really do need to have a policy discussion on, on the tax regime for startups, so that we don't find startups lumped up with, SMEs. And when you're told you're starting your company, you're already obliged to pay VAT, you're obliged to pay all kinds of taxes, but you are not at that stage where you're even making a revenue. So we need to differentiate, the life cycle, of a startup with an established business, and being able to offer an appropriate tax regime that really encourages, the commercialization of these ideas that, would put them in the market and be able to contribute to the solutions we need. Again, about business licensing and registration, how do we facilitate licensing and registration of these startups? We know sometimes regulations can be very stringent. I start a business, I register my company, I have to go to the county, I have to then get all kinds of licenses. But, like what we have done, like in Nairobi, and I'm talking about some of the work that is under the ease of doing business, is waive, the unified business licenses, the single business license for businesses which are operating in Nairobi for the first 24 months. We hope to roll this out to all the other counties and many other initiatives. So, and any other ideas that, would really be able to support work, particularly at the county level, we welcome you to have this discussion. And this is also a session that I'm keen to have and bring together the counties to talk about enabling environment within their counties, so that we can also take this up on board and look at the enabling environment at the subnational level. Institutional framework to coordinate national and county support. Again, as we have colleagues who are currently focusing on, institutionalization of innovation. So how do we have a clear framework on how we work between the national and county government? This will be addressed, or, there'll be a focus on this in terms of how this can be agreed upon. I'm sure there will be some pre-events and even plenary, high-level, plenary, where the counties and national government come together to agree on a framework that supports innovation, at that subnational level. So institutionalizing that would be also key in terms of sustaining the work that we'll be doing going forward. Commercialization of innovation, I think Tony has talked about it well. We would really, really want to fast track issues of adoption of, intellectual property rights, how that is being done. There's a lot of work that has gone into it, and Tony did mention conversations that are happening in institutions of higher learning and setting up of the technology transfer offices. I think we will have, a good space to be able to showcase the discussions that have been going on, and also to set some, a framework for these institutions to really monitor their progress with regard to their work on adoption of IPR. With that, Tony, I hope to, I would like to come to an end, but really do invite the partners who are present across the country to let me know if there are any areas that they would want to champion and to create the outputs that we want, and to create a program going forward beyond Kenya Innovation Week to support the Startup Kenya program. You're really welcome. This is a collaborative effort that brings together the ecosystem. So happy to work with you all. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much, Florence. I have known Florence for many years, and there's one lady who is very passionate about getting the enabling environment to work well. I think you have really given a good share of your effort over time, and it's greatly appreciated. And it's awesome to have you in the room as part of that process. Now, I think we all now see the connection. Until we're talking about startups and enterprises in that case, then we are seeing how everything pipes all the way from the skills and talent to the tools, through the process of commercializing, and to the startups. Of course, it doesn't mean that all innovation just have to follow that particular path. There are many ways you can find yourself with a solution without having used fourth industrial revolution, and that's fine. But at least this is giving us some kind of a framework. We've also talked about the sectors that we want to spend a lot of time on and bring as many partners in the room as possible: healthcare, food security issues, and agriculture, as well as fintech and techfin. Now, I think we go to a section where we can answer a few questions. Now, there are a number of questions that have been posted, lots of them, and lots of comments. We appreciate the positive comments, of course, and I think it demonstrates that what we're trying to do will potentially add value to the broader ecosystem. So I'll just kind of take a few questions, and if you still have any more, we can take them. Because we have a few more minutes for the question before we talk about the next steps and the going forward. So I see one question where, well, it's a comment. Kenya Innovation Week can be a game changer. Going forward, we need to see how we can devolve this kind of conversation into counties. Now, in the earlier presentation, when I introduced the Kenya Innovation Week, there are two things that you will pick that point to the fact that we have to go all the way to the counties. It is Kenya Innovation Week, which means the venue is Kenya. The venue is not just Nairobi, the venue is everywhere. When we celebrate Mashujaa Day, or when we celebrate independence or any other day, there is the element of being nationalistic. I mean, somewhere where there might be a bit of noise, so you bear with me. So we have to think nationalistic. So for now, we are encouraging as many counties as possible, as many universities as possible, which are spread across the counties, as many innovation hubs as possible. We are working with the associations that are coordinating hub activities. And the goal is to see as much of the county participation as possible. As we go forward, year by year, we will even be more deliberate, and we can't rule out that we can even rotate the main event to other counties. So the answer is absolutely yes. That's why we have pre-events. That's why we have side events. We don't all have to concentrate in one place. And there is a lot of innovation happening in different locations, and we have to find ways to energize and incentivize that. So that is very much in line with our thought process. Nanotechnology is part of Kenya's Vision 2030, and the question was, are you guys, excuse me, you just tell them to slow down a little. Yeah. Someone asked the question whether, are you guys thinking in one way or another if we can have nanotechnology as part of the conversation of Kenya Innovation Week? I do believe that Philip would be probably better to comment, because I think the answer is yes. There is a question on it's a comment that says, thank you very much, Kenya, for the webinar. Your selection of panelists couldn't have been better. Amazing and well thought out presentations. Kudo. Thank you. Now we're looking forward to converting the presentations and utilizing the panelists to actually translate into some tangible solutions. There is a question around, I am a biomedical scientist from Egerton University. Is there a database of local partners willing to jump in on risky scientific ventures requiring a small funding, which is a proof of concept? And then is also asking about infrastructure around building local capacity for retaining advanced big data genomics analysis. And then the other element is translating biomedical output to commercial products. To be very honest, it's a very complex question, and I can only contribute a little. Maybe another panelist might also have. Yes, agencies like Kenya and National Research Fund do have mechanisms of giving little funding, and I think it's a question of just getting the right communication and engagement of the right people within the institutions. I do know there are a number of partners who also do. From an infrastructure perspective, I know that the National Research Fund is funding significant amount of money towards establishment of scientific research infrastructure. I am not very sure about the big data genomic analysis, but I think that is part of your proposal to the National Research Fund. In terms of translating biomedical output to commercialized product, I am sure that in the industry there are partners who may be interested. The question is, how do we ensure that these partners get to engage with you? And that is why we are developing something like the National Innovation Bridge, which will enable people to link. But as at now, we are currently building the database and trying to strengthen the commercialization framework so that we have as many partners connected to our systems as possible. So this is work in progress, and please stay in touch. There's a comment around, could one session touch on Konza in the context of the National Innovation System, especially with focus to MSMEs, youth and women? No doubt, we have the Ministry of ICT, Youth and Innovation, and Konza falls right there. In fact, Konza is one of the strategic partners for the Kenya Innovation Week, and they have already begun to think about exactly how they might contribute. So the model of Kenya Innovation Week is also not to suggest that the team that is shaping it is going to run everything. No, the model is that you have something to contribute as an institution, as a partner, and you can organize a side event and parallel event at different locations across the entire country. So we don't have to converge everything in one place. So I don't see a reason why Konza will not actually run an activity in Konza Technopolis, focusing on the areas that they have strength in. So I sampled a few questions that I could easily comment on, and I'm going to try and invite my 4 panelists to give a kind of remark, like in closing. Either you are answering a specific question or you want to give more of a closing remark. So I want to allocate about 7 to 10 minutes range, where I give you 1-2 minutes per panelist, because you are 3 of you, so that will be long. If you have a particular question that you're seeing in the pool, you can answer or you can comment generally. Do I start with the other way around? Maybe Sheena. Yeah, just let's go the same sequence. Sheena, if you have anyone that you want to comment on, please, this is a shot.
Great. So I think, thanks, Tony, and thanks everyone for the great presentations. And I think Florence put it really well. Some of the areas seem interconnected, and I think they are, but it's the sum of all parts makes it greater and bigger. So I'm really excited to see some of the questions and people, across the counties who said that they want to collaborate. I think, please, my one thing would be, please submit your ideas on the form. It is, and we'll make sure that the form obviously works properly. I think it's the best way for us to really figure out how to partner with you. And I think the point is, these are all ideas that we're crowdsourcing. So, whatever it is, I think it doesn't just have to be a solution. It could be, this is a challenge you're seeing in the space. This is something that you want to address. This is a topic that you think will kind of really help move the needle. I think is going to be really, really important for all of us. So I think my closing remarks would just be, I think let's make Kenya Innovation Week about all of us, and what we put in is what we'll get out. So really use the available tools, kind of reach out. I know we've shared email addresses, etc. So please do reach out. We are, as Philip said, we're not a think tank, we're a do tank. And I think all of us on this panel, if anything, I hope we've left you with that, we're not just here to talk. We really want to do something. We really want to achieve something, and also kind of be patient. This is the first one. We're hoping to do this for the next 4 years and create a real movement and make real change. And it all starts with a step. So I think my message just is let's take that step, share your ideas, share your thoughts. Really, really excited to hear from all the different people from different counties, and very happy to integrate. And let's think about sort of, problem solutions, and let's take the first step, and then let's build on it, so that for the next 4 years, by the time we finish, the 4th Kenya Innovation Week, the 5th Kenya Innovation Week, we really have sort of moved the needle. So I think for me, I will just end by saying this is a movement, and we're starting it. I think we've got a really good group already. I think we've got an awesome leader in Dr. Tony to lead us. And really excited to be part of this. And I hope all of you can join. And for those who haven't been here, please spread the message to your friends, reach out to us. Let's take pride in this, let's take ownership in this, and let's do this together. Of course, the Skills for Innovation track is the one that I'm leading on, but you've got amazing partners on the other tracks. And like I said, I think all the tracks also, they really work well together. So I think I'll end there. Thank you so much for the time, and I hope this was useful for everyone.
Thank you. At least that points that we've got a link, and you can see kenyainnovationweek.com/events, where you're able to post questions, comments, suggestions of things that you think we can do, a side event that we can organize, and so on and so forth. Thank you. Philip in the room.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Florence, and Sheena, as always. I think for me, it's always inspiring every time we come to do this. And if anybody's taking anything out of this webinar, is there's passion, right? But then that passion has to be translated into action. And I think with Tony as our fearless leader, really, it's been an amazing, very short time journey in terms of just trying to put together a coherent concept. And I think the team has done this very well. I see a lot of ideas that are coming aside, and I'm super excited that I'm seeing the kind of 4th industrial revolution thinking around genomics, putting a database up for researchers. As I said during my presentation, the sort of the sort of database or intellectual piece or body of knowledge from this part of the world is very thin. And so super excited that I'm seeing people are thinking about this. Happy to pursue with you in terms of how we make this possible. I'm seeing Rongo University saying they want to do this. I'm seeing somebody talking about ASAL and ASAL regions being the ones that are left behind. I think all my colleagues have said, listen, it's an all-in effort. We are here to collaborate, cooperate, co-create. And the idea then is simply how do we put ourselves together so that really no one is left behind. And I think my parting shot really is that, listen, it's all of us. We are simply champions, but are saying, listen, we will work with anybody and everybody who wants to shape this in a way that we make Kenya 2.0 come alive. And the coming alive for us, we are known as the leapfrog capital of the world. I always tell people this. I'm sitting in a retreat right now and everybody's saying, and they're looking at Kenya for leadership. And my sense is that if we can get these 4 tracks working, commercialization, our skills capacity, fourth industrial revolution, moving together, then I think it may not take even up to the 4th Kenya Innovation Week. I think that there's some immediate problems that we need to fix with the talent, capability, and skills that are even in this room. But also if we can bring together all our institutions, whether it's universities, whether it's students, and I'm seeing students are in the room, I think we don't have to wait for opportunities or internships. I think everything in this room. So with that, Tony, I'd like to hand it back to you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Very well said. Finally, Florence.
Thank you, Tony. I think for me is really to re-emphasize the issue of inclusivity. And this is why for us, we are very keen on the involvement of counties, and this again being a national event, really we want to carry everybody along. So I mean, I have seen the comments, and I'm really excited about the participation from other counties, Rongo, Meru, the ASAL region. No region will be left aside. We really seek to be inclusive, and we are also very keen also to bring the special interest group, focus a lot on the youth, the women, the people with special needs, and be able to leverage on innovation that addresses some of the problems that are experienced by these groups. In terms of the region, like I said, ASAL region, we hope the counties will come forward and be able to work with us, to co-create and curate sessions that speak to the needs of the area. So again, there's nothing prescriptive. We really would want to hear even ideas coming from the counties and areas of focus in terms of what really their startups need for support, and this will be emphasized. We'll find a way of having sessions that address those areas. But even during the Innovation Week, when we are running simultaneous activities in the county, we expect that each county will spearhead and champion activities that really are speaking to driving innovation and putting innovation out there as a key agenda to drive, the needs of the community at the county level. So we are happy to work with you to be able to lead those sessions within the counties in these regions and be able to speak directly to the needs of the region. So thank you so much for joining us, and we just welcome you on board to work with us. This is an exciting platform to be in, and thank you so much, Tony, for the leadership.
Thank you all. I just moved to a location that might not be as bright as the other one, but I think we've captured the spirit. I can see even Emma from Finland has posted saying, greeting from Finland, Helsinki. We look forward to joining the Kenya Innovation Week in December, and we'll get in touch with Kenya very soon. They've got a solution they call the Fingo Power Bank Project. I have been a keynote speaker in their national event at one point in time. So look, this is trying to pull the global audience also to Kenya. So if you are a Kenyan, this is also an opportunity to see Kenya as where the globe is converging. A number of us have been to Slash in Helsinki, and we see that the world converges in Finland at that time in November, late November or thereabouts. So this is also an opportunity for us to build. You keep hearing me say, and every panelist has said, it's about we. It is not about I, it's not about a particular institution, but it's all about we and our contribution that we can make. Now, in terms of going forward, On the website, be on the lookout. We're going to start putting updates on speakers, and we're going to put sessions on there that people can participate in. If you want to be a speaker, if you want to be a panelist, if you want to partner, if you want to organize a side event, if you want to post something, the website will be the platform. If you want to exhibit, that will be the platform. So in the coming 1-2 months, most of that will start becoming absolutely clear on the website. Please join. We will also provide some little guidelines around branding and how you organize side events, some more the template that you can recycle as we build the movement. Otherwise, thank you all very much. It's already very exciting, as I can see. I can see comments from counties. It's absolutely inspiring. I wish you a great day. We are now ending at exactly 10:30, which was the intention, that within 1 hour, 1.5 hours, we will elaborate as much as we can. And we are welcoming ideas. Don't hesitate to question, don't hesitate to challenge, to provoke, as long as it's constructive and getting us to a better destination. So be on the lookout on the website for as many updates as possible in the coming 1-2 months. Thank you and have a good day.